So it's currently 11:11, and if you're watching this video, this is a sign for you to actually bring, before you watch anything else, bring pen and paper and write down what I'm about to tell you. Not because that matters, but simply because by writing it down, either on your phone, on your computer, or preferably on a pen and paper, it actually does something to your mind. Because anyone can think. We have over 10,000 thoughts every single day, but what's the difference between those thoughts, those useless thoughts, and what you're writing down? It's something different. Just try it out. So I took the trade I'm about to show you today. I took this short position on Euro USD yesterday, and it hit my TP within, like, I think it was 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. But the thing is, I've been waiting the whole week for this big win, and it was Wednesday yesterday. Think about it, not the whole week, but you get the point. Felt like the whole week. Anyways, so what I want you guys to think about is, think about complaining. Think about when you're complaining about something in your life, in the market. I used to be guilty of this as well. I used to complain so much. Put a recorder on, actually press record and complain and say whatever you want to say, and then don't listen to it right away because you're still in that emotional state. Put that phone away and bring that back 1 week later. Look at that, listen to that recording 1 week later, exactly 1 week later, and listen to how pathetic it sounds, right? Because when you're complaining, what you're essentially doing is you're playing a victim, and what is more is that you actually refuse to listen to what the market is telling you or to actually improve. That's the biggest issue, because you're too stubborn to actually improve. This week, I've had some trades that when I look back at them now and I journal them today, Thursday today, I actually see what I could have done differently, but I couldn't see that there and then or right after. That's why I recommend journaling at the end of the week when you're not emotionally invested in that trade anymore, and actually look and think what could I have done differently. Because if you're not journaling, you're never going to become profitable. And I know it sounds so weird, and like, how is journaling so important, right? It just does something different to your mind when you actually sit down and journal the trades you've been taking the whole week. Because, like, you have to try this out for yourself, but I know it doesn't make logical sense, and I was really stubborn. I was like, I'm just wasting my time. I could rather back test instead. But the thing is, you have to sit down when you're not emotionally invested in those trades, and you have to actually review them, and you see in hindsight, because we're always like that. In itself shows the difference between hindsight and actually live execution, because when you look at your trades in hindsight, like, everything makes sense, right? That actually proves to yourself that hindsight is not the same as live trading, and it humbles you, because it proves to you how different it is to trade live versus looking at the charts in hindsight, and how your ego and your mind fools you to think that you know what you're doing when you're reviewing trades in hindsight versus live. But the thing is, you have to actually, you can't just leave a losing trade and never look at it again, because then you don't learn anything. You're just, the only thing that's happening is that you create more and more fear and trauma in your mind, to the point where you're shaking and you don't even want to press the button anymore, buy or sell button, because it's so much fear. So you actually have to go back to that trade that stopped you out and completely wrecked you, and you have to review it, and you have to, like, there's a huge gap in your mind, the same way in the market, and you have to fill that gap. The gap is, you have to go back, you have to review the trade, and you have to go out wiser and better, like a better trader, after reviewing what you could have done differently. Because the majority of times there is a lot of things you could have done differently. In my case, it was not entering like really close to session open, like when the market opens, because that's oftentimes a bad idea. Or being like, not taking sloppy entries where the 1 minute isn't that clean or obvious, waiting for something more clean, fresh, and then executing. Or simply just like if there's a level that's too old, too many days ago, that's probably not that important anymore. Like, but it seems important there and then, but when you review it in hindsight, it's like you're a completely different person. You're like, what? Like, how could I execute that trade? Like, was that me? Right? But there and then, that was you. But then you have to look at it in hindsight and see how ridiculous that trade was. Not to like be mean to yourself, because the truth is, you have to always tell yourself, like, be kind to yourself when you're journaling, because that means you're actually willing to learn. And you can never be like mean to yourself and think, how did I take that trade? Like, I'm doing mistakes as well, but it doesn't help you to be hard on yourself by doing mistakes. You just have to think, okay, trading is really hard and I'm not going to hit every single time, but I'm just trying to learn and become better. That's what matters. And hopefully you had good risk management, and as long as you have that, you're still in this game. So what I want you to think about is one more thing after you begin journaling, is that stop comparing yourself to other traders. And I don't just mean better traders, because that's obvious. People compare themselves to better traders who make, like, let's say you see someone making $30K, $30,000 in one trade, and you're comparing yourself to that, and you don't feel good enough, and you end up FOMOing. That in itself is bad, and it's so obvious. But also worse traders than yourself. Like, if you compare yourself to worse traders, you're going to be complacent. You're going to be, I wouldn't say like arrogant, but you're going to feel like you've made it. And that's a dangerous mindset, because then you're not going to be that like locked in backtesting or developing yourself further as a trader, and the market never stays the same for long. So that means you always, I'm not saying you never change your edge. You continue to use the same edge, but you always have to stay in sync with the market and stay in flow and tweak something in your strategy to fit the new market, or to just see which setups doesn't work anymore. Like, you get what I'm saying, and which do work. Same strategy, you just get that intuition that this doesn't work anymore, this works, that's it. That's why even the best strategy, if you don't know how to apply it, how to manage the trade, it's not going to work. So you have to always stay in the game and don't compare yourself to worse traders. Don't compare yourself to better traders. Who cares? Don't compare your day 1 or day 50 to someone's day 5,000, right? And if you're still watching this, I just want to say that in order to actually become profitable, what you have to be thinking is that the first thing, like, when you know you shouldn't take a trade, you just don't take it. Like, that's the first step, because you have to break this down step by step, day by day, session by session. Today I had huge FOMO on a trade, but I didn't take it because it didn't fit my plan, and I knew deep down that it wasn't going to work, and I didn't take it. I'm so glad I didn't. But you just have to deny bad setups again and again, and just survive every single session, every single day. And eventually then you will get to that point where you just wait for a good setup and it works. And then you also have to be willing to learn and like understand that you're probably not as good as you think. Even me, myself, I see some setups that I could have done differently this week. I'm not saying this to be like mean to myself, and I'm profitable, but I have so high standards that I don't care about what I did well. Like, the trade that I showed you, like, there is nothing to review. Like, it hit perfect TP, and then it reversed, and it went to my entry point, my stop loss, but it hit my TP perfectly. And at that exact moment it reversed after my position closed, and I was up 5.5%, and that's it. Like, everything was perfect, and it went to TP 5.5R in like less than 10 minutes. So that's not like, I don't say this to boast, but there's little to nothing to review on that trade. Like, it just worked. But all those other trades, I think about what I could have done differently, and I'm really strict on like how I could always kind of improve, and I'm never satisfied. That's the thing. Other than that one trade there, I feel like there's basically nothing I could have done differently. But other than that, I try to improve everything, and I'm never satisfied. So with that said, good luck and see you in the next video.